We hear it all the time, right? AI is this massive tech story. It's all about algorithms and data and processing power. But what if that's not the whole story? What if that's missing the real revolution? Today, we're going to reframe this whole conversation. So, I want you to start by asking yourself this one simple question. Because how you answer it, well, it changes absolutely everything about how you see the future, your career, and our society. Is AI fundamentally a revolution in code, or is it a revolution in how our world works? The common view, the one you see in the headlines, is that AI is a tech breakthrough. And sure, it is. But the real story, the one we're digging into, is that AI is first and foremost an economic force. Think of it like a new kind of gravity that reshapes markets, reallocates what's valuable, and changes the consequences of every decision we make. To really get our heads around this economic revolution, we actually have to go back in time, way back. Because the intellectual map we need to navigate this, it wasn't drawn in Silicon Valley. It was sketched out centuries ago, long before anyone had even dreamed of a computer. Picture this. The year is 1776. Over in Scotland, a guy named Adam Smith published a little book called The Wealth of Nations. But his ideas were part of a much bigger conversation that was happening back then. A conversation that gives us the perfect lens for understanding the age of AI. So think of it like two sides of the same coin. On one side, you've got Adam Smith. He gave us the building blocks for what we'll call economic literacy, basically understanding how the system of incentives, prices, and trade actually works. He's asking, how does this all tick? On the other side, you've got the historian Andrew Tytler, who is focused on what we'll call economic maturity, the societal wisdom we need to handle the freedom and prosperity that a good system creates. His question was much tougher. Can we sustain this? Let's break that down. Economic literacy isn't about being an economist. It's just about knowing the basic rules of the game. It's seeing that, hey, resources are limited, that incentives are what really drive people's behavior, and that prices aren't just random. They're actually powerful signals, full of information. It answers the simple question, how does this whole thing work? Economic maturity, though, that's a whole different ballgame. That's about how we play the game. It's about being responsible with our freedom, accepting that there are always trade-offs, you can't have it all, and being willing to face the consequences of our choices. This is the wisdom part, and it asks a much harder question. Can we actually handle the power we've created for ourselves? And here is the absolute crux of the issue. AI is dramatically speeding up our economic power. It's supercharging our literacy of what's possible. But, and this is a huge but, it does nothing to automatically increase our societal maturity. And this growing gap between our capability and our wisdom, that is the central tension of our time. So, with that framework in our back pocket, let's look at how AI is actively rewriting the economic rules of what's valuable right now. Okay, so every economic system starts with one basic fact: scarcity. There isn't an infinite amount of anything. Now, AI is an absolute powerhouse at creating abundance. Think of all the information and computing power at our fingertips. But here's the trick. AI doesn't eliminate scarcity. No way. It just moves it around. It reallocates that to new and maybe even more important places. So where has scarcity gone? Well, in a world of infinite content, your attention becomes the truly scarce resource. When an AI can spit out 1,000,000 answers in a second, sound human judgment becomes priceless. And in an age of deepfakes and misinformation, trust and accountability become the most fragile and therefore the most valuable commodities of all. This is exactly why understanding prices and wages is so critical. They aren't just random numbers, they're information signals. They're basically screaming at us, telling us about these new scarcities. As AI automates some skills and makes others way more valuable, prices and wages are just the messengers. Understanding this helps us see economic reality, not some predetermined technological destiny. So, how in the world do you navigate this? The key is to think in terms of human capital. Now, don't let the jargon scare you. All it means is thinking of your skills, your knowledge, your adaptability, not as fixed things, but as an investment portfolio that you are constantly managing and growing. And AI directly messes with the return on that investment. First, it automates routine tasks, so the value of just knowing static stuff goes down. But at the same time, the value of uniquely human skills, creativity, critical thinking, adaptability, it skyrockets. The conclusion is pretty clear. Constantly investing in your own learning is no longer just a good idea. It's an absolute economic necessity. And here's a great little tool for getting an intuitive feel for this. It's called the Rule of 72. It's a simple mental shortcut. Just divide 72 by a growth rate to estimate how many years it'll take for an investment to double. But here's the twist. This doesn't just apply to money. Your skills, your habits, even societal trust, they all compound too. AI is basically hitting the accelerator on this compounding effect, making your investments today in learning and building trust more important than ever. This brings us to maybe the biggest question of all. We've got this incredible compounding power, but do we have the wisdom to actually govern it? To answer that, we need to understand something called public choice theory. The core idea is simple but really profound. Politicians and regulators aren't neutral referees standing above it all. They respond to incentives, like getting reelected or gaining influence, just like anybody else in a market. The implications for how we govern AI are massive. Technology doesn't just magically erase self-interest. This means good intentions aren't nearly enough when it comes to regulation. The design of our institutions and the incentives we set up for our leaders will matter way more than finding some perfect technical fix. Policy will always reflect political reality. And this is exactly why this stuff is so vital. As Milton Friedman said, you can't have a free society without economically literate citizens. In this age of AI, just outsourcing our judgment to experts, or even worse, to the algorithms themselves, well, that's a recipe for losing our freedom. So let's bring all this home. What is the one foundational skill that we all need to navigate this new world? Ultimately, it feels like we're standing at a fork in the road. Without economic literacy, AI stays this mysterious, scary force. We pretend there are no trade-offs, and our trust in everything just crumbles. But with it, AI becomes an understandable tool. Our debates can actually become constructive, and we can start to manage its impact on our society in a smart way. The power of this technology is growing at an exponential rate. It's compounding day after day. So I'll leave you with this final question to think about. Is your own economic maturity, your wisdom, your adaptability, and your understanding, is it compounding at the same rate? Because in the end, that's the only thing that will determine where this revolution really takes us.